The dashboards serve two main purposes. They enable users to preview the tables and charts that can be included in client reports, and they allow users to perform what-if scenarios by changing different assumptions and comparing the results. Upon activation, the In the Money dashboard will be displayed. The other dashboards are accessed by selecting the individual tabs displayed on the left. Each dashboard addresses a different concept and/or function. Information on the concepts illustrated in each dashboard is provided via the concept tutorial link at the top of each screen. The structure of each dashboard varies slightly, but the basic layout is as follows. The left side lists the current input assumptions contained in the database and includes sliders and input fields for entering revised assumptions. The revised assumptions are applied using the button at the top. The right side of most of the dashboards displays the relevant data in the following layout. The table at the top represents the data using the current assumptions contained in the database. The second table represents the data using the revised assumptions shown on the left. Where appropriate, a graph at the bottom illustrates differences between the current and revised data in the tables. Using the display dialog box, the user can choose whether to show both the graph and the tables, or only the graph. The goal selection is a single depiction of the client's current position relative to the desired after-tax financial goal. The Vesting Events tab gives us a view of all of the vesting events for this client. And finally, the Grant Selector tab allows the user to choose which grants are to be used in the analysis. By default, when a grant is added, it is automatically included in the analysis, but can be excluded by placing a check mark in the appropriate box. Now let's look at some of the navigation principles for the dashboards. First, the use of the sliders or boxes and the resultant what-if analysis. We'll start with stock price. When you first come to the dashboard screen, where you see stock price equals is the stock price that was most recently saved to the database on the company information data entry screen. But what if the stock price were to increase? What would be the resultant value of the chosen grants? We'll make a change, either by use of the slider or by entering a number in the box. You may have noticed that the increments that appear in the sliders throughout the dashboards have been adjusted to a prescribed increment amount appropriate for the number being entered. After making the assumption changes, we apply the revised assumptions, and we can then check the revised values and see now that they reflect what the values would be with that chosen price, both in the tables and in the accompanying graph. Now let's select the Black-Scholes dashboard. And you'll notice that the stock price change carries over to the input box, and the values are reflected in revised value table. As I mentioned earlier, assumption changes made to any one dashboard are applied to and reflected in all the other dashboards that use the same assumption. Applying revised assumption changes does not alter the current values in the database. These must be changed on their respective input screens. In addition, we can change more than one assumption on the sliders or boxes and apply these revised assumptions all at one time. Any of these changes we make and apply will carry over to any other dashboards where that same variable appears. Finally, if you leave the dashboard and then return, the assumption values revert to any current values that have been established in the database. The revised assumptions from the previous session are not carried over. This concludes the tutorial on navigating the dashboards.